The Super Nintendo had some really amazing games, but it also had some stinkers. In this video, we're going to look at another 10 games in my Super Nintendo collection. Check them out so you can see them and I can play them and maybe you'll remember a couple of them. Game number 41 in my Super Nintendo collection is gonna be Contra 3: The Alien Wars. Now this one I never played until I actually started collecting video games and added this one to my collection. This one came out in 1992 and is the first and only entry into the franchise that we saw on the Super Nintendo. Now, as someone that had played his fair share of Super C back in the day and died relentlessly, putting this one in the system and playing it for the first time as an adult was an interesting experience. This one was pretty punishing for me, but after figuring it out a little bit, figuring out what I was doing wrong, I did do some research, and I can see why a lot of people really love this game. This one takes the Contra games that we saw on the Nintendo and really cranks it up a level. They really went all out with the 16-bit graphics on this one. It's got crazy bosses. It's got a bit of an upgrade to the weapons as well. Now I can carry 2 upgrades and swap back and forth between them, which is really nice. You could have a weapon that you want for a boss, and you can swap the other weapon. Keep that one weapon safe. If you die, at least you still have it. I really like that. I think that was a really cool upgrade they did in this one. They also bring back those top-down stages that we saw from Super C on the NES, which for me is fun because those ones I do remember as a kid. The Contra 3 version of these top-down levels actually uses the Super Nintendo's Mode 7, which makes those levels a little bit more impressive. The camera twists and moves as we play through these levels, which is pretty neat. Overall, Contra 3 is a pretty epic entry into the franchise. If I'm just rating it on the explosions and the bosses alone, this one is an awesome game. Now, game number 42 in my Super Nintendo collection, we're gonna go from the awesomeness that is Contra 3 to Super James Pond. All right, right off the bat, I do need to admit that I think I did rent this one back in the day based on thinking it was gonna be a really cool, like, underwater fish James Bond style spy game with fishy bad guys and maybe some river bottom fun. So that's not actually what we got here. To be honest, I don't even know what this is. I guess they must have thought they were being punny with the name. I don't know why I'm in what appears to be a toy store. There's like this creepy teddy bear in the background. My power is to stretch. I'm a fish and my power is to stretch. I don't know what this is or even why I'm playing it at this point, and we're basically in the first level. And Super James Pond even has a sequel. So I don't know, I guess maybe as kids we would have thought this one was fun. This just seems really weird to me, especially with the name. I mean, come on now. Why would you call it James Pond? Why use that at all? Like I said, I'm pretty sure I rented this one as a kid, but I don't remember playing it. I think I must have blocked it out and just pretended in my head that it was that fishy James Bond style spy game that I really wanted it to be. And yeah, there's totally a sequel to this, which, ooh, I can't wait to play that one. Number 43 in my Super Nintendo collection, we're headed back into awesomeness country with Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Zombies Ate My Neighbors is a pretty cool one that, again, I never did play until I picked it up just last year. This one is one you hear about often and people really seem to like it. So when I started to play it, I was pretty hyped to get into it and check it out. And this one really does deliver. This is a really fun game. Some of it can be a little rough and there is a ton of levels in this one. I haven't actually had the opportunity to play this one 2-player yet, but it sounds like that is gonna be a blast. In this one, we're in this top-down arcade shooter style of gameplay with these funny, campy little zombies. It's got a really fun vibe to it. I love the look of this one. It's got a ton of different map locations, from your neighbor's backyard to the mall. We're trying to avoid these horror movie style enemies and save all of our neighbors that are scattered through the stages. I really love the creative weapons we have in this one, from a water gun to those exploding pop cans. Even some of the mechanics are fun, like having to use that Jason style chainsaw wielding enemy to get through the bushes in some of these levels. This is a really awesome game. I'm so glad I took the plunge and picked this one up. There is a sequel to this one with Ghoul Patrol. We're definitely gonna look at that really soon, but it's not quite Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
They're coming to your neighborhood.
You're not the pizza guy.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors! Now playing on Sega Genesis and Super NES. A 55-level feeding frenzy of prime-cut creature features. Fend off bee-moving maniacs with your weed whackers, exploding soda pop, and oozy squirt gun. Save the neighbors! Or they're dead meat. Zombies Ate My Neighbors! From Konami.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we took a look at Tiny Toons Cartoon Workshop on the NES. This week, we're gonna look at one where they went full Looney Tunes with it, with game number 44 in my Super Nintendo collection. It's gonna be Acme's Animation Factory. This is one of those games that we got on the Super Nintendo that actually utilizes that Mario Paint mouse that we got. And this one is very similar to the Mario Paint game. In this one, we have a painting option, which again is very similar to what we saw on Mario Paint. Click the colors, click the spaces, fill in the background to paint in those cartoon characters. There's also an animation option where we're going to be animating Looney Tunes frame by frame, coloring them, making them into our own little cartoons. There's also a music option where we're just going to be making our own music. It is kind of interesting. You can definitely make some catchy tunes in here, but again, very similar, not quite as good to that Mario Paint game that we saw. And this one does have a mini game option. That mini game is just a matching game where there are boxes you click to match the characters, but there are also boxes that will break and take a life from you. Overall, as an adult playing this one, it's not really the best game. I don't have memories of this one like I do with Mario Paint, but if I maybe had this one as a kid, I might have had fun with it on a rainy summer day during summer vacation, just sitting down and making some fun little cartoons with it. Game number 45 in my Super Nintendo collection is gonna be Battle Clash. Now, Battle Clash is one of the 12 games that we got that were actually compatible with the Super Scope. I got the Super Scope for my birthday back when it first came out, and I loved that thing. I can remember playing the Super Scope 6 games to death, the ones that came with the Super Scope, and I remember always pretending that I was in some spaceship blasting enemies from my bed on that little tiny TV that I had in my room. So seeing this one and looking at the graphics of it made me excited to re-experience that. Now, I don't actually have a Super Scope right now. There is one locally in an antique store that I have been kind of eyeing up, but that might be something that I wait and maybe grab at a convention if I can find one for a good deal. But I'm really excited to get a hold of one of those and finally be able to experience this game. In this one, we'll be playing as the pilots of a mech battling against other mechs that all have kind of control over these different territories until we go up against that big bad, who is actually a character who killed our hero's father in this game. This one might not sound like it's the coolest game, but the visuals in this one are pretty amazing. The bright enemies, the scrolling background, and the explosions we see in this one are all pretty cool. This is one that I'm really excited to play. This came out a few months after the actual release of the Super Scope, and it actually has a pretty cool commercial that came out with it.
A new game is here for your Super NES Super Scope, so prepare yourself because this one fights back. Introducing Battle Clash. 10 levels where monster machines get totally in your face. Battle Clash, it's more than a game, it's a breakthrough.
Have you been inside all day?
Only on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with superpower.
Game number 46 in my Super Nintendo collection is gonna be Congo's Caper. Now this is a side-scrolling action platformer that was developed and published by Data East. Now in Japan, this one is actually titled Caveman Combat 2: The Adventures of Rookie, which probably has you asking what Caveman Combat 1 is then? Well, technically, it's Joe and Mac. Yeah, this is actually a sequel, or I guess a spin-off to the Joe and Mac games. In this one, we're gonna be playing as the character of Congo. And on the back of the box, it actually gives us that basic intro to the game. If you were a monkey just hanging out in the jungle with your chimp chick, and a magic ruby fell out of the sky and zapped you both, turning you into half humans, and a demon kid swooped down and made off with your girl, what would you do? Yeah, that's basically the intro screen to this game. We are monkeys, some red rubies fall on us, and we turn into these half monkey, half humans, and then, like it says in the description, Bat Boy comes and steals the girl. Now, I don't know about this one. It's not a bad game, but it's not a great game either. I mean, it's no Joe and Mac. We do see similar dinosaurs and cavemen in this one. If we get hit, we turn back into a monkey, and then we have to find Ruby to change us back. I don't know, I like the idea of the monkey, but they don't really use it all that well. This one's interesting because it is a spin-off to Joe and Mac, but for me, that's really about it. Game number 47 in my Super Nintendo collection is a bit of a stinker. It's gonna be Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. All right, so Home Alone 2: Lost in New York was released in 1992 and is very, and I emphasize very, loosely based on the movie. Like, it takes some of the locations elements from the movie, but that's about it. Level 1, we're gonna be in the Plaza Hotel, and we're basically getting attacked by everything from the bellhop to these crazy living suitcases. We do have a slide attack, like in the movie when Kevin slides on his knees across the skating rink, but we can just do that everywhere to attack most enemies. Level 2 is Central Park. We end up in Kevin's uncle's apartment and on the streets of New York, but all in all, it's kind of just a mediocre game, which sucks because I really love the Home Alone movie franchise, and I feel like if I was a kid, I would have seen this one and begged my parents to get it for me, and then I feel like I would have just been disappointed. This one is actually so bad that it was awarded the worst sequel of 1992 by Electronic Gaming Monthly. They also awarded it the worst movie to game in 1996. Home Alone 2: Lost in New York is a great movie, just a poorly executed game. Game number 48 in my Super Nintendo collection is going to be Power Moves. Now this is just another fighting game. This one went up against some really epic fighting games that we saw on the Super Nintendo, and it just kind of lost. This one is your basic fighter. There's a story mode, but in that we can only play as the one character of Joe. This one does decide to steer clear of what good fighting games do. In this one, they make the A button the jump instead of just pressing up to jump, and that doesn't really help it at all. Now, you can play as the other characters, but that's only in the versus mode. They all have 2 special moves, or I guess you would call them 2 power moves, but they aren't that great. The one thing about this one is it does have an interesting point system to level up your skills, but it's so slow to level those up that you're just gonna get pummeled relentlessly by most of the other fighters while you're trying to level that up. You're really gonna be playing that first fighter over and over again just to level your character up, to be able to use some of those stats to your advantage. I really don't know about this one. I think personally, I would just pick a different fighting game in the world of fighting games on the Super Nintendo to play. Power Moves is a fine game, but it's definitely not amazing. All right, we're swinging back the other way. Game number 49 in my Super Nintendo collection is a pretty cool one. It's gonna be Demon's Crest. Demon's Crest is the Super Nintendo sequel to Gargoyle's Quest on the Game Boy and Gargoyle's Quest 2 on the Nintendo. Now, both of those games I think are really cool. They're really fun, they have some RPG elements to them, and they are both games that I would suggest you pick up and play if you haven't yet. Now, Demon's Crest takes that same character of Firebrand from Ghouls and Ghosts and makes him our hero yet again. This one does have a cool overworld. They really made use of that mode 7 to make this look neat, and the visuals in the levels are awesome. I like that you can smash stuff, interact with the backgrounds. I think what they did with the visuals on this is really cool. Now, as we play through the game, we're actually going to be able to change forms by collecting different elemental stones that make us into different versions of Firebrand, all with different powers. I like what they do here. I really do like this game, but the Metroidvania aspect to this one can be a little much at times. I mean, I like that I can only access certain areas by going back to levels that I've played already with the different forms of Firebrand, but after a while it does get kind of tedious. This is a really great game and it does have really great controls to it. It is a well-loved game and I want to love it, but all the back and forth I have to do in this one makes it so it's a game that I just like, not one that I love, sadly. I'd really like them to bring Firebrand back. I would like more games in this series. I do love this series, but this one just isn't my favorite one of the 3. Game number 50 in my Super Nintendo collection is gonna be Donkey Kong 3 Dixie's Double Trouble. Now that name is a mouthful right there. This one is the 3rd of the Donkey Kong Country games we all loved back in the day. Dixie's Double Trouble is probably the hardest of the 3, and that says something looking back at it now, because I remember being able to beat the minecart levels in the first one as a kid, and now when I play it, I'm stuck right there for days. In this one, we play as Dixie Kong and her cousin Kitty Kong as we try to save the captured Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong from King K. Rool. This one has some really cool ideas brought to it. I like that the overworld is more open and I can kind of explore a little bit. But as a whole, this game just kicks my butt. I'm sure if I spent a few weeks playing it every single night, I would probably get good at it. But this one, to just throw it in the system and play it, is a bit rough. All in all, this is a great addition to that Donkey Kong Country series. There are some really cool levels. There are some really tough levels. And there are some levels that are honestly just kind of weird, like the one with the poisonous gas that swaps your controls around. I'm just frustrated pressing up to go down or left to go right or whatever it swaps my controls to, and then I'm crashing into some angry underwater bee made out of a saw. This is a really great game to add to that Donkey Kong Country series. Now, the fact that I'm talking about this one and I haven't covered the second one, I guess that just means I need to get out of here, get out there, and start adding games to my collection.